And we're back. Table Talk. It's been a while. Over a month and a half. I'm your host, Stan Deatherage. This is co-host, Down East Dave. Nice to see you again.
You as well.
Thanks for coming back.
Absolutely.
We see each other a lot. But we haven't done this in a while. And today, we're going to go back and do some old news, some stuff that's happened since we met last. And I guess the biggest news, probably, I'd say one of the 5 biggest news articles, news-worthy issues in this year of many big news stories is going to be the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
I think so. Absolutely.
And we haven't talked about that. And it is a huge issue on so many levels. Charlie Kirk spoke to people of all faiths. He spoke to people of all races. He spoke to people of all political persuasions. Don't let the internet, social media dissuade you of that. He was a real individual and he cared about people. That's why he's so successful. That's why Turning Point USA has become such an immeasurable juggernaut in American society right now.
That's right. He really did have a lot to say, and a big piece of that was freedom of speech. Utilizing the right to say what you want in a nonviolent manner. And you can disagree with folks, they can disagree with you, but it's bringing those discussions to the forefront and being able to have an educated conversation around the issue without inciting violence or anything along those lines, especially when you're looking at ideas that are accepted by many in the United States, but are controversial or aren't accepted by other folks in the United States. And how do we find that common ground, find that ability to discuss and understand those different points? And I think that's where he really brought a lot of, those needed conversations needed to happen. And he really started kind of driving that, especially from the conservative angle, the conservative side, the Christian perspective in the United States, which had been lost or really in decline for a large number of years, especially among the youth of the nation.
And like Christ, he would debate, discuss, talk to people by asking very poignant questions. I mean, he would try to get on the level they were, ask them a question, and try to bring them back to reality. Because a lot of the people he talked to, they were living in an unreal space. And he knew that. The people around him knew it. One of the reasons I believe he did this is to show the compare and contrast between the difference between normal and crazy.
I think so. And a lot of it has to stem from what is reality anymore. What we see in the media and social media, whether it's mainstream news, whether it's the rumor mill you get from influencers on, TikTok, Instagram, anything that you want to get, it's really difficult to sometimes now even find out what is the truth and to have folks realize, how do we find the truth? It's not necessarily a soundbite or a clip you see on your phone or on your computer. You need to go back and fact check, for lack of a better word, use multiple sources, go and find out what is that originating source, what is the truth of the matter, so that you can even understand what you're talking about. Don't take anything at face value. And I think that that's where those difficult conversations that he tried to have came into play. Don't just listen to what somebody's telling you. Understand why you've been told this, understand why you believe this, and maybe it isn't something you agree with once you have had a discussion or have been given an alternative view of something.
I would like to harken back to one thing you said to our audience. If you're going to fact check yourself. Don't listen to anybody else's fact checks. That's how the greatest amount of propaganda has been disseminated in the last 10 years.
That's
fact
absolutely
checkers.
Right. Fact checkers.
Oh, Lord. Pathetic. I agree with you. And Turning Point USA has really just exploded since his assassination. It's just gone crazy. I think there's like 81,000 applications for chapters, not only in colleges, because I don't think there's been about 33,000 colleges in the United States. And I think that includes community colleges as well. So we're talking high schools.
That's right. There's a big push there where folks that start their own chapter, they're able to come in and set that up and do everything. And I think that's the significant piece of what we're seeing with Turning Point is it is a organization, and it really is geared toward the younger generation, talking about what does it mean to be an American? What are our ideals? What do we believe in? What do we understand? Why do we operate the way that we do? And going in and teaching something to younger generations who are being taught something different. A lot of times what we're seeing coming out of public education system, Charlie, he didn't go to college. He went for a semester and dropped out. So I think, some of that is what we see, and it's a little bit more systemic now, but we hear about it in the news as well. You have a big push toward leftist ideology coming out of higher education and now being pushed down into lower level education that teaches one side or one viewpoint. And what he was doing was he was bringing a different viewpoint to the youth. I actually found out about him, never heard of him before until my children told me about him. So that was my exposure to him, because they had heard about it, whether it was through, youth group, school, and all of that. And then they were following him.
I was following Charlie Kirk as soon as he started making some bit of news. So I guess it's been about 10 years I've been following him. And I had no idea he was so young. I thought he was older. I mean, he's a big guy. I mean, big kids, you always think they're older, but he was a smart guy.
Right.
And he was wise beyond his years. And I remember here recently, the governor of California gave up his governor duties for a while, quite a bit, to start a podcast. And I think he brought in Charlie Kirk for his first podcast. And I watched some of it, and I thought, the big guy in the chair, very relaxed, is Charlie Kirk. And he ran the podcast. It was remarkable. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll show you how it's done. You're in politics. You've been in politics your whole life. Let me show you how it's done. And it was a remarkable presentation of just intellect over power.
Right. And I think that's the intellect there when we look at Charlie Kirk. He was a very smart individual, self-educated, if you want to call it that, coming up through school. But I think it shows that level of intellect and that pursuit of knowledge. He wanted to learn more. He wanted to understand. He educated himself on so many things. He was an Eagle Scout. He was accepted to several different universities, even though he chose not to, go through and attend. But you can see throughout his career, throughout his short lifespan, that he had accumulated a wealth of knowledge and understanding that he then tried to, understand it and then reapply that to his life and express that to other folks. And I think he was very, very good at that communication, that he had his ability to break things down and be able to communicate with people is a key piece of why he was so successful.
Yeah, and I would liken Charlie Kirk to another person who was assassinated and died way too young for our nation's benefit, Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was self-educated. Abraham Lincoln, I think he lived in Illinois for a while, even though he's born in Kentucky and lived in Indiana, but he's from Illinois.
From Illinois.
Just like Charlie Kirk. Both, I think I mentioned, both were Republicans. Both assassinated because of their beliefs. And the world was lesser, even for the South. We'd have done much better under Abraham Lincoln's administration than Andrew Johnson.
That's right, absolutely.
And we Southerners need to realize that. I mean, he's a very political guy. I mean, when he went to fight the war against the South, it was brutal. I mean, it was no holds barred, and it destroyed the South, but he would have helped build it back up.
That's right. The Reconstruction period was a direct result of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. It would have been completely different if he had survived the war and gone on to finish out his term, and how all of that transpired after the fact.
Back to Charlie Kirk. A lot of people think that if Charlie Kirk had lived, he would have become President of the United States.
Very possible, especially with what we're seeing now, the way that the political tones, everything seems to be shifting in the United States. The rank and file, everybody that, the average Americans, what we're looking at, what we're kind of hearkening back to, really goes back to the foundations of the country, what we were built on, reverting back to those beliefs, those ideas, and really kind of moving back to a more traditional type of United States in how we deal with our foreign policy and how we deal with our domestic policy. And I think we're seeing that.
How we see each other.
That's right. And
we're all Americans, and we need to find that commonality, and I think that's what Charlie tried to do. And what's so remarkable, the left has promoted a lot of mistruths.
Yes.
About Charlie. And, they parsed his words, and the man said a lot. And he made his living talking. And people that make their living talking, you can always parse their words to make them sound like whatever you want. Even one of my daughters, who's, God bless her, suffers terribly from TDS. But she got into this problem with Charlie, even after his death, because he he didn't have empathy, which I don't know, for some reason is a huge thing for the left right now. They care more than everybody else about everything. So they have huge amount of empathy. If you understand the word empathy, you can't have empathy unless you have experienced that exact same thing. Otherwise, you have what's known as sympathy.
That's right.
So we have two preachers where I go to church, and the female wife of the number one preacher spoke, and she spoke a few minutes about Charlie Kirk, and she spoke about some Christians say, well, Charlie Kirk was a good man, but I just couldn't get behind some of the things he believed in. And she said, but that three-letter word, but, that'll get you in a lot of trouble. And in other words, first of all, you don't cast stones. He who casts the first stone, think about it. And we need to be more accepting. We need to judge, and we need to judge rightly by listening to the entire story to know the entire meaning, and don't parse it out to a point that we don't understand the original intent.
That's right. And that's what it goes back to is, here in America, even in the founding days, you were judged off what you did, not what your father did. You are your own person in the United States. We didn't have a caste system. We didn't have anything like that where you're stuck in a certain trade or you have to be a certain person because that's where your family came from. You have the ability to do whatever you want to do. We have that equal opportunity to excel as far as we are willing to work to better ourselves. And I think that's the kind of part of that message that we're looking at. I think even Charlie, kind of talked about it is, we have to understand one another. We have to be able to work together. We have to understand what, these values are, why we hold them. But if you disagree with me, you can disagree with me. But the downside, the danger of having some of these different ideas that may or may not have been accepted is you do become a target. If you say what you believe, you become a target. And, you draw a line to Abraham Lincoln, but we also can look at Martin Luther King. Mm-hmm. Here's somebody who had a specific
also a Republican
specific set of values, beliefs, was adamant about them, but he did it in a peaceful way. He went out and he spoke. He gathered crowds. He opposed things peacefully. He spoke out peacefully. He connected with folks. He communicated. That was the important thing. The message that he had may not have been accepted by all, and certainly at that point in time, it was not accepted by all, even in the South, but outside of the South as well.
Mostly the Southern Democrats.
But it made him a target, and then he was assassinated. So
and you kind of knew he was a target, and he was too young. He was way too young, and Charlie was way too young, but we didn't think he was a target.
No,
we thought we'd gone way beyond that.
That's right. And
here he is on a campus of all places.
And that really is kind of the most dangerous thing that we see in the United States. We don't see it often. Throughout our history, we've always had, a few folks assassinated. We've had, assassination attempts. Ronald Reagan, Republican.
Yes.
But
Gerald Ford, a Republican.
Right. But political violence is not the accepted norm in the United States. We don't have coups. We don't have violent uprisings. That's not our history. That's not who we are as Americans. But we are seeing political violence being espoused now and being acceptable. We look at the assassination attempts on President Trump. It seems to be a more increasing line of, if I disagree with you or you don't get on board, then violence is the solution.
Are you saying that we're having an assassination culture in America right now?
That's what it seems to be.
Yes. And I mean, was it half of all Democrats believe that assassination is a way to take care of your political problems?
It may be.
I've seen that. I hate to think that it would be even 30% or 20% or 10%.
5% is too much. 1% is too much. But
1% is too much. I don't care if they do care more about things than the rest of us.
That's right.
They have such great empathy. You don't kill people.
But it becomes dangerous.
If your argument is that he should die, that's not a very good argument.
No, it's not. When you talk about it, it becomes even more disturbing. Socialist Rifle Association. That's this new nationwide in about 33 different states.
This is different than the John Brown Gun Club.
This is a different group. This is a group, the Socialist Rifle Association. They have about 10,000 members according to their website. And their goal is to give tactical training, firearms training, and all of this to advance a socialist agenda within the United States. A third of their membership happen to be transgender. And we've seen a rise in the transgender shooting as well.
It's not reported.
And how that was even tied to
It's not
Charlie
reported.
Kirk. It's not. That's
It's
right.
not reported.
But again, there's plenty of rifle associations out there. There's a National Rifle Association. And,
I have no problem.
If you enjoy firearms,
Just
you can get out and enjoy them. But it's not about how do we form essentially a militia and espouse violence to further a political agenda.
No, I'm okay with forming a militia. Just don't do it.
A well-formed militia
to tear down the United States of America.
That's right.
We're self-governed people. We have a way of dealing with those issues. It's called elections.
That's right.
Yeah. Elections are important, and you out there need to be smarter about elections. You need to know who's running for office, where they stand, who they are, and are they capable and competent of doing the job. We don't need any more stupid politicians. I've been one for 25 years. It's the biggest drag on getting things done are stupid politicians. And Charlie was not stupid.
No.
He was smart. Every smart person I know thought he was smart.
And he wasn't a politician at that point in time.
No, he was not.
He had not run for office.
He didn't deal with things in a very political nature.
No.
If he was a politician, he would have never gone on campuses.
No.
To try to secure a foothold for a thought that's very different than what kids are being indoctrinated to believe on college campus.
That's right. It was a very different message.
The message was the freedom to think on your own.
That's right.
Not to spit out exactly what you've been told and do it because it's popular. Because kids are very popular oriented.
That's right. And
they listen to popular music. Some of it they'll go back hopefully years from now and say, "Did I listen to that?" I feel that way about Alice Cooper. I can't believe I listened to Alice Cooper years ago.
Ugliest woman that was ever.
I went to 2 of Alice's concerts. That's how bad I was. But I also enjoyed the Allman Brothers at the same time. So at least I had some taste.
Balanced out.
Yeah, it balanced a little bit. Not enough, though. But no, let's come back. All right. We'll talk about Charlie a little bit more.
Sounds good.
Okay. Talking about Charlie Kirk, Down East Dave. Let's talk about the campuses Charlie Kirk frequented.
Oh, yes.
He wanted the children, when they are still children, trust me, kids don't grow up unless they're in the military until way late now. Charlie Kirk would go to campus. He tried to inspire children to think for themselves. They're there. They have some professors that are good at helping them do that. But too many, and I'm not going to say the vast majority, but too many are there to indoctrinate because they figured that's the best way to educate them so they will believe as they do, which as someone who's somewhat educated, I understood that you need to learn how to write.
Yes.
You need to know numbers. You need to know how to calculate numbers. You need to know the history of the United States and preferably the world as well. It's not bad to learn about geography and geology and some of these other things. It helps. It helps have a well-rounded understanding of things. But when you start getting into social studies and how people should interact with one another and how we should change the world, that's called indoctrination, isn't it?
A little bit, and it really depends, when you're looking at what are people going to school for. As we have a lot more of the population attending schools, getting that higher education, you've got to look at the professors. What is their background? Mm-hmm. What have they done in life? And then they're protected with tenure. I'm tenured now. I can say whatever I want to say. I can write my book. I can come up with any kind of oddball scheme, idea, whatever, and espouse that. And because I'm a professor at a university, especially if you're at some of the more esteemed universities, what you happen to say is taken as truth when in fact it may just be your opinion. But you get that higher level of gravitas per se because of where you sit.
Speaking of gravitas, you think DEI got started at a university somewhere or a college?
Most likely.
Most likely.
It's
And Charlie was pretty much stood in opposition of DEI.
absolutely.
I stand in opposition to DEI. I think it's an abomination. I think it is bigotry and racism at its greatest height.
We have laws in place in the United States that protect the rights of all citizens. You have the ability to advance, as I mentioned before. You can come from any place in the United States and have the opportunity to excel if you're willing to put in the hard work and the effort. And there are different avenues that will allow you to do that. Now, there are certainly people who are born, with a greater opportunity and tools, resources, money, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people call it privilege, but
privilege.
If you're willing to work,
privilege. Do you know that Stacey Abrams was given over $2 billion during the Biden administration? Is that privilege? How was she qualified to get $2 billion? She did a lot better than Hunter did.
Right. So it's it boils down to that. And I go back to education. People discuss, and we're talking about Charlie Kirk, but going to these college campuses, there's the big push. Everybody needs to go to a 4-year college. Well, if everybody gets a 4-year degree, what is that degree worth at this point in time? The same argument would be for the high school diploma. If everybody had a high school diploma, which they didn't have up until about 50, 60 years ago, not everybody went to college. That's why an 8th grade education was the standard. If you could do it at an 8th grade level, the average American could understand it, could work with it. If you had the high school diploma, you were doing a little bit more. The 4-year degree was definitely, kind of a
nice beginning point.
Yeah, good beginning point. You're the expert.
I was
at that
told
point.
that by my parents.
But then if you're not going to be an engineer, if you're not going to be a doctor, an attorney, something that takes a little bit more skill set or higher level of understanding. If everybody has the 4-year degree, well then now you have to have the master's degree, or you're not competitive because you've got to have that.
Get a master's
that piece
in art,
to one
education,
up.
or art.
And that's exactly the.
And Andrew
argument.
Wyeth. You know who Andrew Wyeth is?
No.
He was a great painter, one of the greatest American painters, at least in my opinion. He didn't go to college.
And
he taught himself with his father's help.
And I would argue that's the question. If your 4-year degree is in engineering, you can go out and build roads, build bridges, architecture, things like that. If your 4-year degree is in something in the liberal arts, I mean, I can be just as guilty as anybody. I have a history degree and I have a German degree. I went to school because I planned to go into the military, and that's what I did.
And you were an officer.
And I was an officer. But
you got something for going to school.
Got something for going to school. But if and I would argue that those degrees, what they helped with was critical thinking.
Yeah.
The ability to, as we mentioned before, go back to your first person source, go back and read for yourself, learn why people are saying what they're saying. Is it factual? Do the fact checking. Use your brain to be a critical thinker, and then draw your own conclusions based off of what you have learned from your own investigations. That's where I would say that degree helped. But there are so many other things out there. We used to joke about it coming out of the Citadel that the guys down the road got the underwater basket weaving degree. What is that doing for you? Sure, there may be a need for it.
Just killing me.
but we would joke about it because you're going to school just to get a degree, and you're doing what
women's studies,
what you can to eke by. So I'm not taking anything away from getting an education. I think an education is important.
Men's studies.
But you could go to a trade school.
They them studies.
Right.
I mean, it gets weird.
It gets weird. Go to a trade school. Learn to work HVAC. Learn to be a plumber. Learn to be an electrician. A lot of times, those kids are getting out and getting paid 2 and 3 times more than somebody coming out with a 4-year degree at this point. So there's other ways of looking at education, and I think Charlie Kirk's a good example of that. He kind of espoused that. Let's go in and learn, but let's know what we're learning. Let's understand what this is, and let's have these conversations. And we don't have to have those conversations in a 4-year, in a large university.
One of the things, and I've been in local government for 25 years actively, and I've been waiting for America to turn around little by little. Waiting for it to come around. It's getting worse. When's it going to turn around? Well, just recently, in 2024, I saw statistics that applications to colleges and community colleges was down. And I thought, wow, we've got a fighting chance now of turning this country around. Because people got to get smarter, and they're not getting smarter going to college. They're just not. Some are. You're engineers.
Yes.
People, doctors. Maybe a few lawyers, not all of them. I don't know how some of them get through their bar exams. I really don't. But I saw that, and in that the paradigm of those numbers, community college applications are up. So there's even less people trying to get into universities now.
And I think that's an important part. And really what I would say, as I kind of alluded to earlier in the segment, we're kind of going back to what I would say more old school America.
Yeah.
Whether you call it 1950s America, Main Street America, whatever the case may
Learn
be.
a trade America.
It's right. Let's bring back manufacturing. Let's go back to building our own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to doing those things. You didn't need a 4-year degree to do those jobs. When we started outsourcing those jobs overseas, all of our folks who were doing the technical jobs, the trades, the skilled jobs that you could get from a tech school education, those got outsourced.
Mm-hmm.
So if all you could do was work inside an office building on a computer, that's when the college degree became
the office
important,
politics,
and you knew all of that. So I think that's a big shift too. If we can go back to, and we may be seeing some of that with the tariffs and some of the trade deals that are going on. But if we can go back to build American, buy American, and get an education that will give you a good paying job that doesn't take a 4-year degree, and you can go out and put that skill set to work, I think that's a game changer.
Years ago, I visited Lee County. Small county, Sanford's in Lee County. Small county, I mean, maybe 70, 80,000 people, but probably about a third the size of Beaufort County. Beaufort County's a big county. We're almost counting the water, we're 1,000 square miles. But I asked him, I see a lot of plants. What's your secret? As I was speaking to the economic developer, and he said, we just have families of people who know how to do things. And these children learn how to do stuff. They know how to make stuff. They know how to build stuff. They know how to create stuff, and they don't go to college. And I thought, that sounds pretty good to me. I mean, they're getting an income at 18, 19 years old without going to college. Now, again, we do need colleges. Yes. There's a higher level of learning if you're going to produce something, if you're going to create something. But if you're not going to college to become an active member of the workforce, find something else to do and get off your butt. Yeah, we need people slim and ready to work. Lean, mean, working machines.
That's right.
That's what America's going to have to be going forward. You work, you eat.
That's right.
It's going to come to that.
It's going to come down to
It's going to come to that at some point. It's going to get tougher before it gets easier.
And that's how it was before.
That's why we need Charlie Kirks to go to campus, espouse these realities that are coming.
Right.
I mean, we're in debt, was it $34 trillion, and now we got to go in debt another 1.5 trillion, or they won't open up the government.
That's right. I think we'll talk about that too here later on today.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, do you think there's a college professor, and if any college professors are watching this right now, do you think there's a college professor that could stand toe-to-toe and debate Charlie Kirk in public with people watching, maybe some cameras on them, so that nothing's going to get distorted? Do you think they could stand toe-to-toe with that young man who made it through high school?
There may be one or two that would try.
Well, I think we've finished with Charlie here. I think we've talked about Charlie well enough. But you know something? I don't think Charlie's finished with us yet.
No, I think, it's that example that, free speech, get out there, talk, have these hard discussions, and really see where people stand, understand one another, and continue that dialogue is the important piece of it. And I think that's what we try to do here at Table Talk. I think that's what we try to do at Eastern North Carolina Now. And we would always welcome, any viewer feedback, any reader feedback, and have you all participate in this discussion as well.
I'm going to give us a little bit of feedback. 30, 40 years from now, I don't think they're going to be talking about us.
No.
Sad to say. They'll still be talking about Charlie. Mm-hmm. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. And again, join in, work with us, say whatever you want to say within reason. Try to be diplomatic about it to whatever extent you want, but come to Eastern North Carolina now, and we welcome you there.